Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of Blake's Astrology Corner. I am going to talk about the upcoming days of this lunar Taurus eclipse. It's coming in 2 days here, and then I'll also talk about a little of the astrology that goes along with it. Just to give you a preview, if you guys don't know me, my name is Blake Kelly. I'm Cosmic Period Empowerment over on Instagram, and I'm a queer astrologer who has been diving deep into the realm of astrology for the past 3 or 4 years, and now I am launching my business and offering astrology readings, 60 and 90-minute readings to explore people's birth charts, how they experience things in their lives, how they might have stories about their lives that have not been articulated by other people, or they might have experiences that astrology helps us relate to. But with that being said, let's get into the astrology over the next couple of days. I'm recording this on October 26th, where the moon is in Aries, and then Saturday morning the moon will move into Taurus, where we will experience this lunar eclipse. It is the last eclipse on the Taurus Scorpio axis for the next 8 or 9 years. And it is the last eclipse that has been happening in Taurus and Scorpio over the last 2 years. So if we look back to January of 2021, when the lunar nodes, moved into the Taurus Scorpio axis, think back to January 2021 and now, and ask yourself, what has changed? My insight is probably a lot. And, Taurus and Scorpio are fixed signs, meaning they sustain. They know how to work, or they know how to continuously do the same thing in order to, produce or put out something into the world. Taurus does that through their own, their own sense of their value and our own sense of where we understand where our worth is and how we want to materialize that, or what our offerings are in that. And Scorpio does it from a place of where is my magic, where is my intuitive sights coming to me to to bring that into the world. And we have this lunar eclipse happening on the same day that both Mercury and Mars make an opposition to Jupiter. And then in the early mornings of Sunday, Mercury and Mars will be together, will be conjunct. And Mercury, Mars in Scorpio is very steadfast and very particular and adamant about doing something that feels passionate, that feels like some sort of action that is being taken that makes you feel invigorated, that makes you feel like you are using your resources in a way that is helpful and restorative, and potentially in a way that is also using the body or intuition or a sensed feeling rather than it being logical. And this opposition to Jupiter and Taurus is asking us to find places that we can sustainably ground it so that there isn't a sense of burnout, because Scorpio is a sign that can work a really long time and go, 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 go. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the effort that is being taken, there is like a big exhale and a need to take time to not do the thing that you just put a lot of effort into. And Taurus has that too, but to a different level, and I'll talk about that. But Scorpio is like, I am going to put the pedal to the metal. I'm going to do what needs to be done. I am just going to focus on, it's kind of like putting blinders on. It's like, what is my focus? Nothing else is relevant at this moment. And how am I going to do what I need to do? And that can be really good if you are focused and knowing exactly what you want to accomplish. But it can also, having blinders on, sometimes can have us feeling that we're not really understanding maybe the atmosphere that we're in, or what we're doing is so siloed that we're not able to see the perspective around us. And with the full moon in Taurus and then Jupiter being there with the opposition to Mercury and Mars, it's about how are we learning to take breaks? How are we learning to know that like we can work and take a break, or that we don't have to keep pushing ourselves so adamantly that it leads to burnout. On the flip side, Jupiter and Taurus could also, Jupiter is about expansion. And one interpretation of that could be like egging you on a little bit to be like, here's the material ways that you can make this happen, but is too much too much? What is excess? How are we limiting what excess is, and how can we create boundaries, and how can we create a structure or sustainability to the thing that we want to work on from a long-term perspective? Scorpio is focused on long-term success. Where am I working very diligently and very hard to do something that is going to last me a very long time, and it doesn't matter if it takes a little time to get there, I'm willing to do the work. Taurus is a little bit more, I think a little bit more like, I want my money and I want it now, and then I'll do the work. And so it's like, how are we learning to balance those two things? How are we learning to create limits and boundaries, or even negotiating, like what our labor is and how much our labor is worth, as well as what standards can we apply to the world of what our labor is worth, and how are we willing to know that despite maybe a lot of potential efforts in the world right now that might tell us otherwise about like what our labor is not worth, or that we don't have the skills, or that we our labor is not worth necessarily what other people in society may say it may be. And there's a clash there. There's a clash between the labor that I think that people are necessarily owed to have the resources they need to have it being met. I mean, I think that's very Taurus. Like I will work based on the needs that I have to do what I need to do. And Scorpio of like, I'm willing to work and I'm willing to do what I need to do. But, if I know that there's a long-term gain to be made from this. And those are kind of the polarities that we're dealing with really in this moment. Mercury and Mars conjunct through the weekend can also be a very spicy and very adamant way of communicating. And it could be very, very invigorated. And Scorpio doesn't have time for the sort of niceties or the small talk. And so the more that you can ask really curious questions around how people are feeling about certain things, the more that you can really explore how people's past, or your friends or your partners or yourself, how that is playing a narrative into your current experience, but then also understanding with Jupiter and Taurus, like that past experience, whatever that may be, does not dictate the future, is a really important thing to consider during this time. It's holding that polarity that you can validate and honor and know what the past was like, and feel the scarcity of things that might have felt really hard for you, and at the same time look and find ways with Jupiter and Taurus of knowing that there is a space for abundance, even in this time where we are in late stage capitalism, and it feels like there are, people are kind of always on the grind to make whatever money they need to make in order to, to survive. And I think it's really important to discuss that, certainly with this polarity, because I think that the Taurus Scorpio axis is so much about where we find abundance and where we find our self-worth outside of structures and outside of systems that systemically and, from a cultural even aspect, try to tell us that we have to scrap for our own sense of being, for our own humanity, and that Taurus is really there to say you might have to work even in places that it might not be great for you because that's the world we live in, but that doesn't have to take away from who you are or how you feel, and that your labor is not your identity. Your labor is not who you are. It is something that you are exchanging in the system in order to have your needs met. And I don't know, these are things that are just really coming up for me right now, and I think it's really important to talk about. Um, the other big aspect, obviously, we are in Scorpio season, and it's we have a Venus trine Uranus coming up on the following Tuesday on Halloween. And Venus is also in Virgo right now. Venus is the ruler of this full moon. The moon is exalted in Taurus, which means the moon is very stable. It is very grounded. It is a very, like, I don't need to be bothered by certain things. I'm going to try very hard to not be bothered by my external circumstances unless something hits the breaking point, and then I will get very upset about it. And in Virgo, Venus is the ruler of this full moon. There is still sort of this, like Rihanna's work, 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 work. Like, Virgo wants to be productive, and Virgo wants to help in making efficiencies and finding the small details that allow us to grow in that abundance. And something that's coming up for me around what I was talking about earlier is, I think in this late stage capitalism and ways that millennials have constantly been talked about, like, oh, like, if you stop spending money on Starbucks every day, then you would have all this money. And while, there is a truth in it, depending on, going every day, I think that from a millennial experience, it can often feel like those are the only little treats, or those are the things that, like, we can find daily abundance in a world that feels so uncertain and so chaotic and going through such transformative change. And I think that with millennials having Pluto in Scorpio, there is a generational sense of instability and how things have never quite felt grounded. And that sort of ungroundedness preventing, a sense of building something long term, because there is no path to the future. There is no path of stability of knowing how things are going to progress. And therefore, there's a lot of scrappiness around what millennials have had to do, coming out of college during the 2008 depression, and having a scarcity around jobs, 9/11 happening right around the formative years, and that pretty much changed the entire perspective from a United States perspective on like what safety is. That's very Scorpionic. It's very Scorpio related. And the way that the United States chose to respond to that definitely created a lot of fear. And the response that the United States had was in that. And so the rambling, I guess, I'm going on is to say that I feel that the reason why millennials, or even just people in general, are turning to, trying to find abundance in their small amounts to their day, which I think is very Taurus energy, is to find the things that you love and enjoy and trying to hold on to that, because it's the only thing that feels stable and certain, especially during this time. So that is kind of what I have for you. Of course, if you have questions about this eclipse, feel free to, reach out to me. Again, you can put it in the comments, or my Instagram is Cosmic Period Empowerment, or you can head on over to my website, whatisblakedoing.com, to book a reading. And full disclosure, I have 3 inner planets in the Taurus Scorpio axis, with Pluto and Scorpio as well, because I'm a millennial. So I also feel that this experience of this eclipse is speaking to me, but also potentially to the larger experience as well. And I hope that I hope that this resonates with you as you're moving through this time period. And of course, if you want to explore your chart deeper, if you have Taurus and Scorpio planets on this axis, and you want to, know more, I would love to explore your chart with you. I do 60 and 90-minute natal chart readings, or we can explore transits or predictive stuff for the future. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.